After years of silence, scattered performances, and endless fan speculation, something unexpected has finally surfaced. Jonathan Antoine, the operatic sensation who once shook America's Got Talent stage with a voice beyond his years, has confirmed what fans have been quietly whispering for nearly a decade. While not shouting from the rooftops, his recent interview and project updates may just be the most revealing we've seen since his rise to stardom. Known for being deeply private, Jonathan's subtle words carry more weight than most headlines, and this time, those words align closely with long-standing rumors that have swirled around his career, his direction, and even his personal battles. So what exactly did he say? And why does it feel like a quiet confirmation of everything we've been suspecting all along? As the dots start to connect, what we're left with isn't just another talent show follow-up. It's the unraveling of a story that's far more complex and far more human than anyone expected. For those who followed Jonathan Antoine since his unforgettable debut on Britain's Got Talent and later his crossover popularity in the US, the silence between major projects hasn't gone unnoticed. Over the past several years, fan communities, social forums, and YouTube comment sections have been filled with theories. Why hasn't Jonathan released as many albums as expected? Why does he seem to retreat just when the spotlight finds him? And why does his voice, as powerful as ever, seem to be heading into unfamiliar musical terrain? At the core of these suspicions is a simple truth. Fans believe Jonathan has been intentionally stepping away from the commercial machine of the classical crossover industry. Some point to his preference for intimate live streams over large media appearances. Others have noted the thematic shift in his music, from traditional operatic areas to more contemporary, even experimental choices, including collaborations and reinterpretations that defy genre labels. Then there are the personal whispers, concerns about burnout, mental health struggles, or even a quiet rebellion against industry pressure. While Jonathan has never directly confirmed these theories, he's never exactly denied them either. In fact, the more he carefully curates his public presence, the more it fuels the idea that he's been on a journey of deep internal change, one that the industry hasn't fully caught up with. And now, in his most recent comments, we may finally be seeing the curtain lift just enough to reveal the truth behind the rumors. In a rare and candid interview published by UK Music Reviews in late 2023, Jonathan Antoine gave audiences a glimpse behind the curtain, and while he remained true to his soft-spoken nature, his words spoke volumes. Discussing the re-release of his Christmasland album in a platinum edition, Jonathan touched on more than just music. He admitted that the pandemic years had thrown a wrench into his creative and touring plans, saying, quote, "There were ideas I couldn't fully bring to life, things I had to shelve." That offhand comment alone confirmed what many fans had theorized, that the quiet stretches in his public output weren't due to artistic dormancy, but logistical and emotional roadblocks beyond his control. He also spoke of experimenting in the studio, of trying out new sounds and pushing his own artistic boundaries. "I've been trying to find the balance between who I was and who I want to become," he noted, a statement many believe hints directly at his shift away from strictly classical styles. More importantly, he made no promises about sticking to one genre or direction. Instead, he left a door open, describing his future work as something in progress, something evolving. While he didn't outright say, "Yes, I'm stepping away from classical music," or "Yes, I've struggled with burnout," the undertone was clear. Jonathan Antoine is moving, not stalling. He's transforming, not disappearing. And if you read between the lines, it sounds a lot like the quiet confirmation fans have waited years to hear. Despite the hints and subtle admissions in Jonathan Antoine's most recent interviews, there remains a cloud of mystery surrounding several aspects of his personal and professional journey, and that silence speaks just as loudly. For starters, while he's acknowledged creative evolution and the challenges brought on by the pandemic, he has never directly addressed the widespread belief that he deliberately distanced himself from the classical industry. Fans have speculated for years that Jonathan, once groomed to be the next Pavarotti of the pop world, made a conscious decision to resist the machine, to avoid the constant touring, the record label expectations, and the pressure to conform to a specific commercial image, but he's never said so explicitly. Likewise, there's no formal announcement of a genre shift, no press release declaring a new musical identity. Instead, Jonathan remains vague, referring to his journey as fluid, open, and in progress. Even his social media presence adds to the ambiguity. Posts are sparse, often poetic or symbolic, rarely promotional. This intentional ambiguity fuels theories that he's carefully rebranding behind the scenes or is struggling with the weight of public identity altogether. And then there's the topic of mental health, something Jonathan has briefly acknowledged in older interviews but has never fully unpacked in public. Many suspect that behind the powerful voice is an artist still healing, still searching. And while there's no shame in that, the absence of clarity keeps fans guessing. In a media age driven by oversharing, Jonathan's restraint is rare, but it also makes every word, every project, and every silence feel like part of a bigger story, one still unfolding, just out of reach. In an entertainment landscape dominated by instant fame and relentless content output, Jonathan Antoine's slow-burning, introspective evolution stands in stark contrast, and that's exactly why it matters now more than ever. As the classical crossover genre continues to shift and redefine itself, artists like Jonathan are uniquely positioned to shape its future. But instead of rushing to capitalize on trends, he's taken a different route, measured, deliberate, and rooted in personal authenticity. That choice, to step back when others might push forward, speaks volumes, especially in a world where disappearing from the spotlight is often mistaken for irrelevance. For fans and industry observers alike, his recent statements mark a turning point. It's not just about confirming suspicions or teasing a new sound. It's about reclaiming control. Antoine is no longer just a teenage prodigy molded by reality television or the operatic darling nurtured by record labels. He's becoming something else entirely. An artist who's not afraid to say not yet, to take risks, and to explore creativity on his own terms. In that context, his words, though subtle, carry revolutionary weight. They suggest that the Jonathan Antoine of tomorrow may look nothing like the Jonathan Antoine of yesterday. And in a time when so many artists are pressured to stay visible at all costs, Jonathan's restraint becomes its own kind of statement. That longevity is not built on constant noise, but on meaningful moments. Moments like this one. As with many artists who prefer the quiet over the spotlight, Jonathan Antoine doesn't always announce his next move with flashing lights. But if you pay close attention to his interviews, his live events, even the language of his website, a trail of breadcrumbs begins to emerge. First, there's the musical experimentation he hinted at during his 2023 interview. He spoke of spending time in the studio, testing new material, and stretching the boundaries of where his voice can live. While he stopped short of naming collaborators or confirming a genre switch, the phrasing alone points to something bigger than a seasonal re-release or a traditional operatic album. Then there's the subtle shift in how he interacts with fans. Instead of relying solely on label-backed promotions, Jonathan has leaned into live streams, small venue performances, and even independent projects, like the Platinum edition of Christmasland. Some fans believe this is a sign he's preparing for a fully independent release, perhaps something more intimate, raw, or narrative-driven. Others are watching his children's book ventures closely, speculating that his creative reach may be expanding into visual storytelling or even musical theater. And while he hasn't confirmed an official tour, multiple mentions of exciting travel and returning to stages across the UK and beyond suggest that live performances are very much on the horizon. The big question is, will his next project reflect the operatic routes he came from, or will it mark a bold break from tradition altogether? Either way, one thing's clear: Jonathan Antoine is quietly building something. And this time, he's not just using his voice, he's using his vision. In the end, what Jonathan Antoine has revealed may not come in the form of dramatic press conferences or viral sound bites. Instead, it's the quiet confirmations, the carefully chosen words, the shifts in tone, the evolving projects that tell us everything. He hasn't shouted his transformation to rooftops, but he has left just enough of a trail to say, yes, the change you sensed is real. The voice that once stunned the world hasn't gone silent. It's grown deeper, more complex, and more intentional. And maybe that's what fans had suspected all along, that Jonathan Antoine was never just a classical singer or a talent show success story. He's an artist in motion, a storyteller who's just beginning to write the next chapter on his own terms. In an age of oversharing and instant gratification, Jonathan's deliberate evolution feels almost radical. And while the industry may still try to place him in a box, it's clear he's already stepped far outside of it. The only question now is, are we ready for what comes next? Because Jonathan Antoine is no longer following the path carved for him. He's drawing his own. And for those who've been listening closely, the message couldn't be clearer. The rumors weren't just speculation. They were a preview.